Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy and governance. I am Shafi'u Suleiman. Kaduna State House of Assembly has recently indicted the administration of Malam Nasir El-Rufai over alleged siphoning of 423 billion naira from the state corpus following a probe into the finances of the state against the backdrop of claim by the incumbent governor Obasani that he inherited the sum of $587 million and 85 billion naira from his predecessor. Kaduna State, which is currently one of the most indebted states in the country, was carrying a debt burden of 73 billion naira as at 2015 before the inauguration of the El-Rufai government, as claimed during his inaugural lecture. Incumbent Governor Obasani had cried out at a stakeholders meeting in the state months ago that he is finding it difficult to cope with an accumulated debt profile of $587 million and 85 billion naira, which was left behind for him by the El-Rufai government. By reacting to the purported indictment of the El-Rufai government by the state lawmakers, ex-council members who served under the government of El-Rufai rejected the state assembly findings as being riddled with falsehood and what they call predetermined conclusions aimed at tarnishing their hard-earned reputations. Now, it is against this backdrop we'll be engaging with a sub-assigned whistleblower and a businessman, Mahadi Shehu, on the claims by both sides of the divide. He joins us via Zoom from Kaduna. Thank you for joining.
Good evening.
Great. Okay. Good evening. We'll also be interfacing with the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Wilson Naligu, in the studio on the impact of the collapse of local government system in Nigeria on deteriorating security situation in the country vis-a-vis the takeaways from the just concluded Northwest Peace and Security Summit in Kaduna. But before the conversation, here are some tidbits. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has dismissed claims that the Senate proposed new aircraft for President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima. Akpabio, in a statement on Tuesday by Jackson Udom, his special assistant on print media, clarified during a condolence visit to Senator Tahir Manguno over the death of his father. The President of the Senate said the report attributing the comment to him on the purchase of a new aircraft was not true. According to Akpabio, the report is from propagandists and fifth columnists. And on a sad note, a senior officer of the Nigeria Customs Service, Itopa Andrew Essien, on Tuesday slumped and died after developing a complication during a hearing at the House of Representatives. The House spokesman, Akin Rotimi Jr., confirmed the incident in a statement. According to the statement, it is with deep sadness and regret that the House confirmed the passing of an esteemed official of the Nigeria Customs Service who was at the National Assembly for an engagement with the House Committee. The statement said during the engagement, which occurred around 1 p.m. on Tuesday, June 25, 2024, the official developed sudden health complications. The statement added that despite the immediate and diligent efforts of first responders and medical personnel at the National Assembly Clinic, he unfortunately passed away. Here is a video of moments before the death of the custom officer.
The first one I picked was for only one levy. If you check 2016, you will see other levies. That is, you see the 30% levy on sanitary waste. You can see that's page 6. You can see the levy there. And then you also see a textile levy, cement levy, and others. So I may need to take water.
You need to take water, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead. Or if you need tea, do you need tea?
I may need to take water.
Quite sad. May his soul rest in peace. We'll now take a short break. When we return, our conversation commences. Stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. And Mahadi Shehu, once again, thank you for joining us. Okay. I hope the audio will cooperate as we tag along. You've had some of the tidbits we read. The first one has to do with the denial by the Senate President that he was the architect behind the purchase of new presidential jet. He said those peddling that rumor are propagandists and of course fifth columnists. What do you make up of that reaction from the Senate President?
I think his biggest enemy is the fact that that statement of sending prayers through the mailboxes of senators that was retracted in place of money sent for them to go and enjoy during the festive period of the new year have stinked permanently to the psyche and the brain and the psychology of people, such that anything attributed to him is automatically believed. So it is difficult for Akpabio to wash away, to wish away, to clear and to clean this statement, may be wrongly or rightly attributed to him. Like for me, I believe that statement in wholesale and in retail, and there is nothing he can do to convince me otherwise. That is the danger of making mistakes, especially for public officers who have forgotten that they have microphones on their necks.
What do you make up with the whether it is true or not? Because this issue has been on the table for quite some time. There has been rumors around the need, or rather the plan to purchase a new aircraft for the president. But do you think it is sensible? What do you make up with the sensibility or sensitivity of buying a presidential aircraft at this moment? Nigerians are facing difficulties getting even a square meal.
The first thing that one takes, the moment, if you want to know something is false or true, the moment the federal government denies a news item, then it is true. It is just a matter of time. It will come to pass like a prophecy. It will manifest. That is a side. The second issue is supposing, assuming it is true that they have made up their minds to buy brand new aircrafts at a projected cost of 980 billion naira. In Nigeria today, the least is to say it is very, very insensitive. It is also callous. It is also very, very inconsiderate. In a country where government is saying they cannot pay a minimum wage 250,000 naira, in a country where you have to give student loans to go and pay for their education, in a country where you subsidize Hajj, in a country where you spend billions of naira to buy luxury cars for about 600 people, in a country where renovation of villas and residences takes precedence over the welfare and living of Nigerians, then that is a sign that all is not well. It's a sign of complete disconnect. Anybody who thinks, contemplates, demands, accepts or justifies buying of aeroplane is a person living in denial, and it's a confirmation of complete disconnect between the politicians who are living in luxury and the voters who are living in abject poverty.
Right. Okay, let's look at the tidbit. On a very sad note, you saw that fine, custom officer making presentation at the National Assembly, has perhaps to be precise, a committee hearing, and suddenly he developed, some complications, health complications.
So the same thing applies.
And then moments later, he was pronounced death. How do you, how do you feel as a Nigerian?
Well, I feel sad that we have no emergency provision for health situations like this. The medical doctors will tell you that probably, maybe, perhaps he died from MI. And it is something that could have been avoided. It's something that could have been treated. It's something that could have been attended to. But no resuscitation facilities, no specialist medical doctors around, nothing. only imaginations. Anybody who is sick in Nigeria is on his own. That is why you find this pilgrimage, medical pilgrimage outside the country. Billions of dollars are being spent by Nigerians to go and look after themselves when they are sick, because our hospitals are completely not like hospitals. They have no equipment. There are personnel, fantastic personnel, qualified medical doctors, but handicapped. Theaters are outdated. Drugs are unavailable. No incentive, no allowances, no good working condition. That is why simply people will die within a minute. Somebody just like this fantastic custom officer. Look at the way he died. And if care is not taken, before he receives his death entitlements, it may be after 5 or 6 or 7 years. Before his families are given the comfort of life, for their father have been placed so many years, it's going to be a Herculean task, unless if they are very, very lucky.
Yes, quite sad. But what does this say about life generally? You know, some say life is very short. You know, looking at what happened, you find people.
Look, it is.
You know,
this is a very, very clear message. It's very clear message for the hideous. Those people who accumulate primitively. Those people who siphon. Those people who betray trust. Those people who accumulate primitively. This is a message for you, that in the wisdom of God, He has not told you when you are going to die, under which circumstances you are going to die. And all the money people are accumulating, grabbing left, right, and center, will not in any way save them from this type of death. He is even lucky that he died doing a national service. Some people die under mysterious circumstances, under altogether dirty circumstances, under altogether questionable circumstances. His is a lucky death. I wish him a comfortable sojourn, and I wish his soul to remain in peace.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And of course, let's go into our conversation now. We're looking at debt burden, Kaduna State debt burden, which has become a subject of controversy. The government of Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the previous government, was said to have, you know, accumulated huge debts, running into hundreds of millions of dollars and thousands of billions of naira, or rather hundreds of billions of naira. As a resident of Kaduna, and of course one who has been following with keen interest this back and forth, or these altercations between the previous government and the incumbent government, which was an offshoot, if you like, of the previous government. What do you make up with the whole saga?
Well, let me make this general statement, which will run through the entire conversation. There is nothing wrong with a debt collected for a purpose. But there is everything wrong when the debt is collected for a purpose and entirely spent for other purposes. That creates a clear distortion. And let me also say that ask public finance experts. There is a linear relationship between public expenditure, public revenue, and public debt. It is expected that leaders in the position of power and authority, governors, presidents, ministers, and such other stakeholders in governance, always must strive to create a reasonable balance, an acceptable balance between public expenditure, public revenue, and public debt, because any disequilibrium in these three factors, any distortion in these three factors have endless multiplier effects. Once you don't get this arithmetic between the three factors that are so important in governance, it means wherever you see hunger, wherever you see starvation, Wherever you see disease and collapse of public infrastructure, it means there is an imbalance, there is a distortion, there is a disequilibrium between public expenditure, public revenue, and public debt. Such that if there are these distortions, it means those who have income, their marginal propensity to consume will be 100%. Any society where you find the marginal propensity to consume is 100%, there is a distortion in the management of public expenditure, public revenue, and public debt. Then the moment you have 100% propensity to consume your income, for those who have income, it means your propensity to save is zero,
Right.
which means your propensity to invest is zero.
Yes,
and where your propensity to invest is zero,
right,
your name is a spectator in an environment, in any environment.
yes,
and
Mahadi
where
Shehu,
you have no stake,
you raise
where you are not an
sufficient
investor,
background for the conversation. Yes, you talked about the imperative, if you like, of, the fact that debt in its own is not a bad idea, but how it is utilized is what matters.
Exactly.
Yes, today, developed countries like the United States, as some of the most indebted countries in the world, but when we talk about development, we have to, situate them there. Kaduna in particular, before we talk about the what you find, the disconnect you're able to find, in terms of monies collected for X, Y, Z, but then used for, B, C, D or so. Now, let's look at the investment, before now, Kaduna State, despite its historical strategic place in Nigeria, for instance, and in northern Nigeria, was nothing to write home about in terms of infrastructure. If you look back at Kaduna before Nasir El-Rufai, and you look at Kaduna today in terms of infrastructure, and you look at the debt, that was accumulated, would you say, with all sincerity or purpose, that there was no value for money?
There could be physical and superficial value for money, but I think the best way to put it is just go to a zoo and bring out a well-fed lion, looking well-fed, looking healthy. And also go to the bush where there are stray lions and bring out a well-fed lion, very healthy. Hand over these two lions to a veterinary doctor, maybe a histologist, and maybe they take the sample of their dungs for laboratory analysis. After the analysis, you will see that the outcomes will be different, even though the samples are the same. The zoo-based lion will have very limited species forming part of the dung. The stray lion in the bush will have so many species: the ants, the snails, the monkeys, the donkeys, and such other prey making up the specimen inside that particular specimen taken. What am I trying to drive? Well, yes, if you look, Kaduna is beautiful with network of roads and such other lightnings and so on and so forth. But beneath those developments are financial distortions. Beneath those statements are so many victims, some who died, many lost their incomes, thousands lost their trades. If you go to the central, I will give an example where I live on Isaketa Road. Before the dualization of Isaketa Road, informal sector business women who are selling akra, who are selling pub, who are selling pancake, early morning being the only source of comfortable breakfast for people of lower income, have been completely fizzled out. Thousands of informal sector businessmen and women lost their investment on account of this urban renewal that was done courtesy of the loan, courtesy of the debts. Many people lost their houses, most of the time avoidably. So many people died. Many people could not get their pension and their gratuities all out of these reforms. Therefore, much as there is physical development, there are blood of innocent people. There are people who are on hue and cry. There are people who have remained permanently exited from their businesses. There are people who have been reduced into pitiable combustible materials. There are people whose lives will never be the same forever on account of that.
But for every development, there must be sacrifices, and then no development comes without distortions like that. When you're talking about displacement and dislocations and so on, developed countries face similar challenges. Now,
in other developed countries, there are pushing effects. You give safety net.
Let's look at the probe
you
itself,
give
Mahadi Shehu.
You give circle.
How would you explain this? A number of people find it difficult to understand why the basis or why this probe now, considering the fact that a number of actors who participated in the procurement of the loan were now the ones probing the accumulated debt. For instance, right from the governor who spearheaded and then supported the loan, acquired the loan from the World Bank, to even the lawmakers, a number of them, the former speaker was also part of those probing it. They all gave a nod for it until now. Some are beginning to read political meanings to all of this. Do you also see some sort of political connotations there?
There could be, maybe beneath the table, but the reality is that what is wrong with carrying out a probe? As we are speaking now, there are over 21 probes in 21 different cities of Nigeria, including Kaduna State. What is wrong with probing a regime? If you have nothing to hide, you should be happy that you are being probed so that at the end of the day you come out clean and cleaner with a clean bill. But why would you complain when you are being probed? RFI also probed Ramallah Nyoro. Heavens have not fallen. What is wrong with Kaduna State probing Nasr RFI? The records are very, very clear. Loans, Kaduna State government have acts signed into law, governing and guiding how loans are to be acquired and how loans are to be appropriated. From the report which I have, I am amply qualified to comment on this because for three reasons. Number one, since 1973, I have been permanently settled in Kaduna. So I know Kaduna very well. I have 16 children born in Kaduna. Number two, I'm also a businessman, an investor, and an employer of labor, therefore interested in the typology, geography, and history of Kaduna State. Number three, I have this report, 175 pages report on the investigation, which I applied using the Freedom of Information Bill to acquire and collect a certified true copy, and I read it from cover to cover. To that extent, I'm qualified to comment. Of the loans collected, 14 of those loans collected were collected without the consent of the assembly. That is a breach of the law. And of the 14, 8 out of the 14 from the report are to the effect that they were collected for one purpose but diverted for other purposes. That is also a breach of the law. That is lawlessness. That is criminal because breaching the Appropriation Act is a criminal offense according to the criminal justice system. Therefore, I see nothing wrong, absolutely nothing wrong with this investigation. My hope is that they take this investigation to the logical conclusion so that it will be established that RFI govern Kaduna State with honor and dignity according to the record that they give. We want to see the honor. We want to see the dignity so that he can go to the next level with pride and with his head high.
Yeah, but Mahadi Shehu, lastly, because we are gradually winding down, looking at the concerns, some say the process of the probe, has a lot of issues. The fact that RFI himself was not invited, for instance, and then, it ought to have been conducted by an independent body and not, for instance, the State Assembly, which is also, to some extent, culpable in the whole saga. Didn't you think it would have been better
they have the power to
if that it was an independent body that conducted this inquiry and not just the interest parties.
No, it's just like you are saying that if and when Bola Tinubu decide to investigate Buhari, he will go and get people from Ghana, from Sierra Leone, from Rwanda, from Burundi, just to show some semblance of fairness. That is not the way probe is being done. Kaduna State have absolute right. The law is behind them. They can investigate, and they can make their investigation public. And there is nothing wrong with making the investigation report public. It is a public document for public consumption. And I'm sure, even if considered that Obasanjo was part of the people who backed that loan, I am sure outside backing that loan at the Senate, if you ask him to give you the nitty-gritties of the way and the manner the loan was spent, I'm sure he doesn't know. And I'm sure he was too busy in politics to do a background check for days like this, so that he will know in what way, in what shape, in what manner the money was spent, whether it was spent for the purpose. At least for him to be able to tell the public that, yes, I spearheaded the getter of the loan, but I'm innocent in the implementation.
Right, okay, lastly, let me get your take on this. Which one is better now, borrowing to provide infrastructure like RFI did, or not borrowing, to end up not doing anything like what many felt is happening now?
Borrow through the established process. Don't breach the law in borrowing because you are desperate to implement infrastructural development. Borrow along with all stakeholders. Be open, be sincere, be honest. Don't be selfish with borrowed money. Number two, allocate money for the purposes that you placed while you were collecting that loan.
Okay.
Number three, use that money also evilly in developing the society, not being selective when you are applying the loan proceeds.
Okay, thank you
this
very
is
much, Mahadi Shehu. We have to, come to an end of the conversation. It's an extended conversation, actually. We'll get you to come back and discuss more on this. Thank you very much for your appearance. Mahadi Shehu is a assigned whistleblower. He's also a businessman and a resident of Kaduna. Thank you very much for your interventions.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll continue with the other conversation. Stay with us.